Welcome back to another episode of the Moneyball Card Podcast. This week, me and Jordan are going to do separate videos because we're going to be taking a look at key players. He's going to be looking on the football side of things, and I'm going to be looking at baseball. But like all episodes, before we dive into the data, I want to show you one pickup from the last week. So this is a card that I've wanted in my own personal collection for a while. It is the Mike Schmidt rookie card in a 7. But it's not your normal Mike Schmidt card because it is the O-Pee-Chee version. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with what O-Pee-Chee is, they're a Canadian distributor of cards. So this card was actually printed in Canada, not in the United States. And you can see how up here it says O-Pee-Chee. So on the back, that loads right there, O-Pee-Chee printed in Canada. Now, Mike Schmidt, one can make the argument that he's the greatest third baseman of all time, or at least in the top 3. So this is a really, really great card. O-Pee-Chee is so much lower pop than the tops. The price increases a ton once you get past the 7th grade. The 7 was still affordable. I ended up picking this up, I think, around $250 or $300. Can't remember exactly, but something that's going to be staying on my PC for a while unless I could upgrade to an 8 or 9. But it's so expensive. This card looks pretty nice. Centered well, has that O-Pee-Chee cut, which I like seeing because O-Pee-Chee as well use dual blades, so there's rough edges around the card. Either way, I'm glad to have it into my personal collection. So we're going to be looking at a player today on the channel who's Bobby Witt. Hobby social media absolutely loves Bobby Witt. It's been going crazy the last few weeks. In fact, his card market has been skyrocketing. People are getting hyped him up right now that he's going to be the next Wander Franco. And I wanted to do a deep dive into his data. Is he really worth the hype that everyone is bringing onto him? Is Bobby Witt going to be a potential superstar in the game of baseball? So I'm going to go on a website which I really like, which is Fangraphs, and deep dive into some of his advanced data so I can show you guys where it's at. On top of it, I'm going to take a look at market movers to show you where current prices are. Sometimes with prospecting, the price does not match the output. For example, I picked up your best third baseman right here for $250 as a 7. But Bobby Witt cards, they're expensive. I'm going to show you those graphs right now. All right, so I'm in Market Movers, which, by the way, if you guys want this tool, use code Moneyball, save yourself 20%. And I'm going to look up Bobby Witt. Now, the card I'll take a look at with Witt is his first Bowman Chrome, both the base and the autograph. So we're going to take a look at this first, which is his autograph. So this is a PSA 10. And we're going to look at the last 365 days of this card. So last year, this card was at, let's see, $1,500, $1,700, $1,400. And today we're at $2,500 across the board. Another sale, $2,469 right there at 22. So we're up about 67%, it says, in market movers on a 10. Now let's take a look at a 9 as well. Search. And a 9 has gone up. So we see the comps here at 650 and 500, 1,000, 835, 710, and 900. So across the board as well, 30%. As you get into more expensive cards, you can see faster increases with the lower pop. 9 has a population of 111. And the 10, on the other hand, has a population also of 101, and you can see the charts how they're built out over here. On the other side of things, if we want to take a look at his normal non-autographed version of the card, we'll take a look at a 10 so you guys can see this as well. It's a roller coaster on this one. So we started I hear, let's see, that comp 170, then 120, somehow went all the way up to 370, went back down, and has gone up. It's kind of like with the curve of the market, how people say, don't go after base, go after base. And there's a ton of conflicting information. So you can see all that where the autograph cards were kept increasing. And back then, I mean, if you're spending $400 comparative to what a 9 for the autograph went for, I don't understand that one, but a hobby always evolves. Don't worry about it. So you can see right now, the price wise, $240, $220. So even if you bought it back then a year ago, you are still up. Now, let's take a look at the data behind Bobby Witt and see if he's actually a good player. So a little bit background, Bobby Witt was a first round draft pick for the Kansas City Royals, which is pick number 2. Most famous Royal right now is George Brett, legend, 1975 rookie card. It's not too expensive. I just sold a PSA 8 of that for $650. So already Witt's more expensive than the greatest Royal of all time. But beyond that, let's take a look at his data. On here, they're projecting he gets called up, plays 130 games, bats 270 with the WRC plus of 114 and WAR of 3. Those are numbers I'm taking a look at right now. So decent. And here's the prospect breakdown. This is something I like taking a look at. It's not perfect by any means, but this is what the scouts say. Now, this scale goes all the way up to 80. If you get an 80 on the scale, they think you're like a legend in that category, like the best of the best. So hitting wise, they give him a 40 or 50. Game power and raw power, so he ranges from 50 to 70. Speed wise at 60. Fielding 40 to 50. So average glove, his power has great potential, and then a slightly above average hitting for the prospect report. And you can see how that reflects in the data with 24 home runs in 130 games. And then let's go down over here. And we're going to start taking a look at some of his minor league stats. Now, minor league stats aren't perfect on analyzing players in the major leagues because there's a lot of different things that change between the trainers and as well as the competition, because minor league pitching and major league pitching are completely different. Pitchers in the major leagues are much, much better than the minor leagues. So often you're going to see someone's K percentage increase a little bit more. But at the other side of things, you have more access to technology. You also have more access to trainers and development. So you have that other side as well that balances against it. But just to let you guys know that the competition is so much better in the major leagues than the minor leagues. So if something is already a bit of a concern in the minor leagues, it can translate into a bigger concern in the major leagues. And one of the stats that I'd like to take a look at is K percentage. Now, the game of baseball, we're coming more towards a few true outcomes, and a strikeout is becoming more and more popular as one of those outcomes, as always. But at 22.5% and 24% between AA and AAA is concerning right off the bat, because that is a high percentage of strikeouts. Usually you want to be a lot lower. Now, another thing to look at for the eye side of things is how often someone walks. And we're looking at a 9% base on balls percentage, which is average to below average. So already from this information, Witt doesn't have a great eye for seeing the baseball. For example, Wander Franco, we'll just put up Wander Franco's stats right here so you guys can see how he compares. And Franco, I think, has one of the best eyes in baseball. So it's not a completely fair comparison, but Franco is also a prospect. Just got called up at the end of the year last year. But we can take a look at right over here. His K percentage is 11.7% in AAA, 6.7% in single A plus, and 12% when he was in the major leagues. Compare that to Witt, who's pretty much double, if not triple in some cases. And for walk percentage, Franco's a little bit low at 7.8% compared to Witt at 9%. But still, I really like that K percentage, which is a lot lower. But go back to Witt for a little bit. The next stat I like taking a look at is something called ISO, which is isolated power. It takes a look at pretty much how often you get on base, but looking at like doubles, triples, and home runs. So an ISO of a power hitter that you want is probably around 200 to 250 plus is a good measurement, at least on the minor league side of things. Again, weaker pitching. And right off the bat, we see 296 and then 275. So that tells me Witt is a good power hitter. Again, confirmed with over here, the scouting report. Average, I don't take a look at too much now. I take a look at more like WRC plus or OPS plus. We can see the WRC plus is at 142. That's standardized to 100 across the board. The fact that he's at 142 already confirms he's a really good player. Going down over here as well, we're going to take a look at some more advanced stats, and we are going to look at the pull percentage. And the reason why I want to take a look at pull percentage is because of the shift. Since Madden has implemented the shift in baseball, we see a lot more teams shifting for players every single at bat. So if we see someone that pulls the ball quite a bit, teams are going to adjust for it, whether it's their pitcher adjusting their pitches or the defense itself adjusting. So that way a batter can get out. And taking a look at 2021, he had if we just look at AAA, there's a breakdown of 40%, 30%, and 30%. So pulls the ball slightly more than hitting into center field or opposite, which isn't too bad, right? I'd say it's pretty good overall. But when you start going up to 45 or 50%, that could be an area of concern. You can just start shifting over and players are going to hit into the shift. So this is something that you're going to want to start taking a look at in his rookie season to see if he continues to pull the ball over that 40% threshold, if he gets closer to 50 or not, because not good. Now, one other thing to take a look at a prospect is how old they are and when they're getting called up. The reason why is because baseball is a sport where you can start padding stats. Getting called up 2 or 3 years earlier than your peers allows you to gain all those stats. Let's say, for example, you average 180 hits per year, but you get 3 additional years because you get called up at 19 or 20 compared to another prospect that gets called up at 23. So let's say the example between 19 and 22. It's 3 years at 180. That is 540 hits. You can pad your total. So if the guy gets called up at 22, only hits 2,500 hits across his career, there's a lot of people in the Baseball Hall of Fame that will not vote for the player. However, that 19-year-old now gets those 3 extra years, 540 hits on top of 2,500. That's 3,040. That is Hall of Fame material. Same thing can go with home runs as well. Think about it. If you get between 15 and 25 for each of those years, if you go to the maximum of 25, it is 75 home runs you can add on top of that. And when you look on the WAR side of things, as long as you're producing between 3 and 4 WAR, if you get 3 on the minimum WAR for across 3 years, that's 9 WAR. If you get 4, that is 12 WAR. On top of it, you get that Major League Baseball experience going into later seasons, which can help develop your eye and develop you at a much higher level. But that is the reason why I like investing in players that get called up at 18, 19, or 20 years old, because they can get those extra years. Now, Witt going into the season is already going to be 21 years old. You can see this over here, birthday. He's 21 years old and 6 months. So he's going to be almost 22 years old, or going to be 22 years old in the middle of the season, which is average across the board. Well, I wouldn't say average. It's a little bit earlier, but for someone that you want to put money into, it's about an average age. I don't really like putting money into players that get called up at 23 or 24 because you lose those years. 22 is about that cusp. So here's where I see with Bobby Witt. Bobby Witt has a good power potential, but his strikeouts are concerning. And there's another red flag potentially too, with how often he pulls the ball. So those are 2 things that you're going to have to be careful for. He has an average glove, so you're not going to get a ton of WAR from his defense as well. And his speed is slightly above average. So he's not going to be a havoc on the base path. When looking at Witt for the future, you're going to have to solely rely on his bat, and hopefully he doesn't strike out too much or continue to pull the ball. But we'll see what ends up happening. I'm super excited for him to get called up. I think there's going to be a fun prospect class for the 22 baseball season, assuming the lockout fully ends. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.